Thank you, Deputy Speaker, for the opportunity to reflect on the life of a giant of the great state of Victoria and of Melbourne, Ron Walker. The truth is that I didn't actually know Ron Walker that well, Deputy Speaker. He was one of those people that I knew from a distance. As a child growing up in the 90s, watching the state of Victoria enter into a new energy and dynamism after the period before. Ron Walker is one of those people that, as a young child, I watched on television, I watched in newspapers and read about as a giant of the state who was doing amazing things in helping to revitalise our great city. And of course, Deputy Speaker, there was nothing that embodied the revitalisation for many people, particularly somebody as young as myself, but as the symbolism of the Grand Prix, which made itself to Melbourne, courtesy of Ron Walker and the efforts of himself and many others. In fact, that became the symbol not just for the revitalisation of a city, but the people and the energy that came with it, and you can never take that legacy away from him. He, of course, was the champion of that cause and was tasked with getting the Australian F1 Grand Prix away from Adelaide in the mid-1990s. He serves as chairman of the Australian Grand Prix for nearly 20 years, and he leaves behind an incredible legacy where it continues to operate today. But the legacy isn't just of the event, it is of the spirit. It was only later in my life, Deputy Speaker, that I started to learn a bit more about Ron Walker and his contribution to the rebuilding of Victoria. And of course, he was part of a, shall we say, group of people at the time who seized the opportunity to turn a rust bucket state into a shining jewel that continues to guide this great nation, and that is part of his legacy. That's why Jeff Kennett said recently that without Ron Walker, Melbourne and Victoria would not be what it is today, and I wholeheartedly share those sentiments. But it was only later in life that I really came to terms with the full legacy of Ron Walker and what he has done for our great state. Of course, he was elected the Mayor and the Lord Mayor of Melbourne City Council in 1974 to 1976, having served on the council since 1969. And of course, during that time, when he was named as Victoria's Outstanding Man of the Year during his Lord Mayoral term, as well as Victorian Father of the Year in 1976 and Victorian of the Year in 1994, as well as many other incredible honours. He, of course, also had a highly successful career in sports administration, which began at the back of a successful business career, and he even led Melbourne's bid to host the Olympic Games in 1996. But when it comes down to it, he was a family man, and that becomes clear as you listen and hear the eulogies and read many of the things that have been said since his passing. And it's that spirit that I want to acknowledge and pay my condolences to his wife Barbara and his children for their sad loss. But having grown up with Ron Walker as a preeminent figure in Victoria and Melbourne throughout my childhood, as I got towards the latter stages of my life, or more present stages of my life today, I know I'm still fit and healthy, but present stage of my life, I actually did get to meet Ron Walker a couple of times. And of course, it was in the mornings, as he did his regular routine of walking around the Botanical Gardens track, the Tan. And anybody who's lived in or around the South Yarra area will know that the Tan is incredibly popular with the community and, of course, particularly for residents in nearby areas as a part of an ordinary morning fitness routine. And Ron fulfilled his surname by being one of the most regular walkers that cover the Tan most mornings, though I do remember the gaps and absences when he was getting treatment and care because of his health conditions. So to Ron, I remember you as a man of great contribution to the state of Victoria, a man who made an incredible contribution not just to our state, not just to our city, but of course to our nation. Somebody whose life will barely be replicated by others because the task ahead of him and what he achieved was so great. But what I will always remember you as is a man who walked in the mornings around the Tan with humility and purpose, and now you walk into the sunset.